Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's live stream. I'm so excited that we get to meet. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you that we are still participating in our December fundraiser for the Fisher House Foundation. Now, the Fisher House Foundation is an international nonprofit established to improve the quality of life for members of the military, veterans, and their families. The foundation builds comfort homes where military and veteran families can stay free of charge while a loved one is in the hospital. If you look at the bottom of the video, you will see a donate button that you can donate directly to during the live stream, or feel free to use the link in the description box below to donate to the original campaign page on Streamlab. Either one gets it to Fisher House Foundation, and we're trying to raise money to help military veterans, service members, and their families. Thank you so much for your participation. I really appreciate you watching my channel and helping out military service members, veterans, and their families. Now let's get started with the show. I wanted to start off today's live stream by talking about the infamous Christmas card. Unless you've been living under a rock, Harry and Meghan's Christmas card, presented by Archwell Foundation, was released, and it is adorable. It all actually calls back to a very special moment the two of them had at the Invictus Games. So I'm going to be reading an article from People magazine to talk about not only this Christmas cards, but Christmas cards from the days of old. Let's take a look back. Once again, this article is titled Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, reveal this year's holiday card. The Duchess of Sussex said last month that they are enjoying every moment of the season with their kids, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, and this was written by Stephanie Pettit and Aaron Hill. Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, are sending season's greetings. On Friday, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex revealed their 2023 holiday card, a virtual greeting sent via email on behalf of their Archwell organization. Quote, "We wish you a very happy holiday season. Thanks for all of the support in 2023," the card reads. It also links to the couple's annual Archwell Foundation Impact Report, which features a video highlighting some of their work throughout the past year. Meghan and Harry chose a photo from the closing ceremony of the 2023 Invictus Games, which took place in September in Dusseldorf, Germany. Harry and Meghan looked glamorous for the occasion. Harry was clad in a black suit with a black dress shirt underneath, and Meghan wore a green strapless dress with delicate laser-cut flower details. The couple cheered and clapped as the U.S. team walked onto the stage as Bruce Springsteen's hit Born in the USA played. The card was released just hours after Harry won his phone hacking lawsuit against Mirror Group newspapers. In a statement following his win, Harry said, quote, "I've been told that slaying dragons will get you burned, but in light of today's victory and the importance of doing what is needed for a free and honest press, it is a worthwhile price to pay. The mission continues." Meghan and Harry are enjoying the holiday season with their children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. During an appearance on the red carpet at last month's Variety's Power of Women event in Los Angeles, Meghan was asked by a reporter about her favorite holiday tradition. Quote, "That's a great question," she replied, thinking of her children. "Our little ones are little, and we're enjoying every moment of it." The release of a holiday card has become a tradition for the couple. Last year, the couple chose a black and white photo of themselves attending the Robert F. Kennedy Ripple of Hope Award Gala in New York City for their seasonal greeting. Quote, "Wishing you a joyful holiday season," the 2022 card said, "From our family to yours, and on behalf of our teams at the Archwell Foundation, Archwell Audio, and Archwell Productions, we wish you health, peace, and a very happy new year." It was signed Best Wishes, with both of their signatures and the text Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Meghan and Harry used their 2021 holiday card to show the first public photo of their daughter Lily, who was born in June 2021. Taken by Alexei Lubomirsky, their wedding photographer, at the couple's home in Santa Barbara, California, the snap showed Harry holding Archie while Meghan picked Lily up into the air. The message on the card read, quote, "This year, 2021, we welcomed our daughter Lilibet to the world. Archie made us a mama and a papa, and Lily made us a family. As we look forward to 2022, we have made donations on your behalf to several organizations that honor and protect families. from those being relocated from Afghanistan to American families in need of paid parental leave. In 2020, their card featured an illustration of a photo taken by Meghan's mom, Doria Ragland, of Archie and their two dogs, Pula and Guy. They've since welcomed a third pup, Mia, to their family. The year before that, Meghan and Harry shared their first Christmas card as a family of 3 with Archie. At the time, they were spending the holiday season on Canada's Vancouver Island. In 2018, the then newlyweds released their first Christmas card as a couple, with a previously unseen snap from their royal wedding reception at Frogmore House. Speaking of Christmas cards, the Wales, my bad. The Wales released their Christmas card as well. And in addition to now suddenly wanting to wear denim for the past few years, wonder where that came from. Before this, it was so unroyal for denim in a Christmas card. And now they're doing the black and white motif, which they just make it so obvious. But people are now calling them out for Photoshop. There was a situation with William's thigh and, of course, Louis's finger. And where is Kate's other foot? And it's just a mess. So I actually found someone who broke it down. And it's not just Louis's finger. Now, let me know what you think after seeing Caro Toronto from Twitter, after seeing her breakdown. And let me know what you think.
Oh my God, you need to take in these Photoshop fails. So first of all, and probably most glaringly, we have Louis missing a middle finger. Yes, if you look closely, you can count 4 fingers there. Next up is the curious case of Kate's right foot. Here, just bear with me. See how there's no right foot attached to her body? Very advanced magic. Next, we have Will's missing thigh. Notice how there's no thigh where my finger's pointing? Again, it's sorcery stuff. This one isn't as obvious, but notice how Prince Louis's right thigh is a little bit enlarged. It looks as though it's been stretched. That's there too. And lastly, it looks like they accidentally applied a Slytherin filter to Prince George. Follow for more snarky lifestyle.
I'll say this. It looked like Photoshop to me, but not because of Louis's finger. Louis's finger actually just looks like he had 2 fingers on either side of the armrest and he had his thumb tucked underneath, which is pretty normal. That didn't look like Photoshop. It just looked like really bad lighting. But what did look crazy as hell was the weird shaped thighs and the missing legs and feet. That was just strange. Like, why not just pick a different pose? A lot of people are saying it's because they either took the photos on different days or because they weren't all really originally in the photo and there was editing. I don't know about that. I personally feel like something that is as widely picked at as a Christmas card, they wouldn't make the mistake of photoshopping people in and out. I think they learned their lesson. Remember when Kate took that photo of the queen with some of her grandchildren and intentionally left out Archie and Lilibet? I think she was born at that time. And everyone was talking about how the Photoshop looked bad. That I think they learned because they learned their lesson because they did edit in certain grandchildren. Because then people said, well, if you could edit in kids that weren't present, why not edit in Archie and Lily? And I agreed. They intentionally left out the Sussex children. And listen, they seem to be the ones that are gnawing on that bone and seem to have something to prove. My favorite thing to talk about is the Sussexes, because what they spend their time doing during the holidays is spending time with families, friends, the ones they love, and the ones that they care about. And even in their Christmas cards, they are asking people to be generous and care about those who are less fortunate. And that is what the holiday season is all about.
A photo released by the royal family features a bad Photoshop job where Prince Louis's finger appears to be missing. And this is sweet. Meghan Markle said she has a finger they can use if they need it.
As they say, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. While they mull over the Photoshop nonsense because they keep up mess and chaos, let's talk about the Sussexes. Now, this is a beautiful Christmas card, and it looks back on a very joyous occasion, especially for Prince Harry, and it's really great to see them enjoying their life. 2023 was a year of blessings and prosperity and abundance for the Sussexes in many, many ways, and it has been really great to witness that. I also wish that for you. If you are watching this video, if you are part of the community here, if you watch my videos, subscribe, what have you, I hope you have an amazing holiday season. Now, do you guys have Christmas cards? Do you send out Christmas cards? If you do, tag me in them if you put them on social media. I love seeing Christmas cards. Let me see your Christmas cards, and I hope you have a really happy holiday season. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I am so excited to have you here. And it was so nice to open up tonight's show on a high note. Those Christmas cards are so cute. And it was really nice to take a look back to Harry and Meghan's Christmas cards for the last few years. So now I have a question for you. Do you do Christmas cards? Is that part of your tradition? And if so, if you have social media, tag me in this year's Christmas cards if you post them. I love seeing people's Christmas cards. I used to do them. My husband and I used to do them, and it just got to be kind of like a task on top of everything else for the holidays. So we kind of moved away from it. But in a few years, we might actually revert back to it because it was so much fun to like watch your life progress over the last few years and see how things have changed and see how people have changed and you live in different areas, how that's represented in your card. So I might go back to making Christmas cards. So if you do, show me yours. I want to see them. But yeah, it was really nice to look at Harry and Meghan's Christmas cards for the last few years, as well as this year's from Archwell. And also kind of funny to look at that royal family's Photoshopped card. Now, there are people saying that the card isn't Photoshopped. It's just the filter on the card that makes it look that way. That may be. I don't know how that would make sense, but hey, that may be. So tonight we actually have a lot to talk about. I mean, a lot. And we even had a show on Saturday and we still have a lot. The reason I had a video go up on Saturday is because that would have made today's video way longer if we waited to add that to today's agenda. So we're still gonna have a lot to talk about. So not mad about it. So buckle up, get your snacks, light up the live chat. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and donate to Fisher House Foundation if you would like. Got $1, feel free to send it over. Got 100, feel free to send it over. You can use the link in the description box or feel free to use the donate button in the live chat or at the bottom of the screen. Thank you so much, YouTube, for participating in the fundraiser and making it easier for everyone to donate. Something else, YouTube, because it's giving and it's charitable, YouTube gives 100% of what you donate to the foundation. They don't take any fees. So feel free to use the donate button and the live chat button. So now we're going to get into tonight's first topic. Oh no, second topic. The first was the Christmas card. Tonight's second topic is the fallout and the events that kind of came after Prince Harry's win on Friday. Everybody lost their mind. I thought we were the ones that were celebrating. We were having a good time, right? We weren't the only ones excited. We were excited for the right reasons. There are people who have lost their ever-loving mind because Prince Harry won in court on Friday. Yep. It seems like everybody just lost their mind. And not only that, but the crown is acting a fool. We'll get to that later. But we're going to talk about the fallout and the revelations since Prince Harry's win on Friday. So don't forget to hit the donate button, light up the live chat. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share so more people can find the channel. And let's get started. Last week, we discussed Harry's big win in court in the phone hacking case. But this week, it seems that multiple conversations have spawned from that win. There's media deflection, which we will absolutely get to. And then there's the people who are asking, what does this mean for the media moving forward? How will they recover? How will they gain back their credibility? And how will they update their best practices? Well, Byline Times is leading the way, as always, with a great article titled, Getting Away with Murder? What Harry's Win Against the Mirror Means for Murdoch and the Mail. So let's take a look at that. Once again, this is in the Byline Times, and it's titled, Getting Away with Murder? What Harry's Win Against the Mirror Means for Murdoch and the Mail. The judgment of Justice Fancourt establishes a clear link between the criminal media nexus of corrupt cops, journalists, and the murders of Stephen Lawrence and Daniel Morgan to feature in trials next year. And this is written by Peter Jukes. First of all, I love his expression in this photo. Like, I tried to tell you. All right. Hidden in today's voluminous High Court judgment of the case of Prince Harry against Mirror Group newspapers is a finding which breaks open what Gordon Brown called the criminal media nexus of corrupt cops, tabloid journalists, and private investigators, and the dark arts that come to dominate the British press. The evidence of one important witness, Derek Haslam, will be key to cases against the Murdoch and Mail newspapers due for trial next year. Derek Haslam, a former Met detective, was tasked to go undercover in 1997 for the Met's internal Ghost Squad inquiry into police corruption to investigate the unsolved murder of Daniel Morgan, a private investigator who many believe had discovered a major story of police corruption he was pitching to newspapers before being axed to death in the South London pub car park. Holy crap. Haslam's target was Daniel Morgan's old private detective agency, Southern Investigations, and the two men there originally arrested on suspicion of involvement in his murder, the firm's co-founder Jonathan Rees and a former Met detective, Sergeant Sid Fillery. Justice Fancourt's ruling in the High Court lays out Haslam's evidence. Quote, Mr. Derek Haslam, who operated as an undercover surveillance officer, was instructed to watch Jonathan Rees, the joint owner and operator of Southern Investigations, with Sid Fillery with regard to activities with corrupt police officers and an investigation into the unsolved murder of Daniel Morgan. Mr. Haslam said that Rees boasted of obtaining information by phone tapping and computer and phone hacking and admitted to him that he had supplied phone hacked information to MGN. He said that Rees had employed BT engineers to tap landlines. However, it is clear from Mr. Haslam's evidence that the majority of Rees's information was obtained by other illegal means. Mr. Haslam said that Rees frequently met with journalists and corrupt police officers in pubs, bragged about working for the Mirror and the Sunday Mirror, and that he had been introduced by Rees to Gary Jones of the Mirror and Doug Kimster of the Sunday Mirror. Quote, he said that both were clearly good customers of Rees and that he had spoken about them often and in particular boasted about having supplied information about Prince Michael of Kent's bank account, which was unlawfully obtained. In cross-examination, Mr. Haslam was able to recall in which pubs meetings with Rees and Fillery would take place and said that Jones and Kimster would come on occasions. On occasions, there was a bank manager called Rob there, as well as a policeman, and he was known as Rob the Bank. The Gary Jones mentioned is currently the editor of the Express newspaper. So let's pause here. Someone was pranking me for like 3 months. Right after Invictus, I started coming home and checking my email that's attached to this channel. And someone kept signing me up for British tabloids, only for royal news. And it was so specific, and I know it was a prank. It wasn't someone trying to help me out because I don't need that kind of help, but someone was trying to prank me. And the reason I know this is because it was only publications that I have called out for their poor practices or their shady stories or always getting something wrong. It's only been the ones that I called out their headlines or their content or even their writers. And it kept happening. Finally, myself and the person who helps me sort through emails and voicemails, we were able to finally put an end to it by blocking all of them. It took a long time, but I know it had to be someone who doesn't like me or the type of content that I make. And I'm not going to accuse derangers, but they had to align with deranger ideals. But I'll say this, it wasn't okay. It was annoying, but that is a funny ass prank because it took forever to block them all. And it was so hard. They kept getting around my blogs. Like, I was like, what is going on? I would open up and I would just open my email and see, thanks for signing up for Express Royals. And thank you for signing up for People All About the Royals. And I'm sitting here like, stop it. It took forever. It took like 3 months, but that's 3 months of having like hundreds of emails every day from publications that I don't like. Oh, that was a good prank. And if I ever figure out who did it, I'm gonna get you back. But that was a good prank. It was funny, it was annoying and time consuming. That is how you prank people. I'm not even gonna be mad because I have to respect a good prank. That was hilarious. But when I saw Express, they are the main ones that get around my block. I finally found a way to block them for good, but they were the main ones that got around my block, and it just triggered me. So I had to share that with y'all, that somebody pranked the hell out of me for 3 months and kept signing me up for all of the British tabloids that I hate for their newspapers about the royals, or newsletters about the royals. Whoever you are, touche. He was a crime reporter at News of the World in the 90s when the Sunday tabloid was under the editorship of Piers Morgan and the main employer of Rees and Fillery. When Morgan moved to the Mirror Group, he took Gary Jones with him. He always surrounds himself with some interesting characters, does he not? But by then, the police had installed a bug in the premises of the private detective agency. On July 6, 1999, when Jones was a senior reporter at the Daily Mirror, he was caught on tape querying invoices totaling £16,991 that Southern Investigations had billed the Mirror. "This is tiresome, effing tiresome," Rest told Jones. "We are not going to put the numbers in there because what we are doing is illegal, isn't it? I don't want people coming in and nicking us for a criminal offense, you know." Today's judgment, among other things, vindicates this suppressed evidence. Justice Fancourt accepted Haslam's evidence in broad terms and called his testimony clear and compelling. But this is only the beginning of the story, because Haslam's evidence is also a key testimony in more trials due next year, brought by several claimants, including Prince Harry, Elton John, and Hugh Grant, over unlawful information gathering against the Mail Group and Murdoch's publications. And this opens up the whole issue of police and press corruption around the murders of Stephen Lawrence and Daniel Morgan. It's no coincidence that two of the most notorious murders of the last half-century occurred within a few miles of each other in southeast London. The assassination of private investigator Daniel Morgan in the car park of the Golden Lion pub in Sydenham in 1987, and the racist murder of teenager Stephen Lawrence in Eltham in 1993. Back in the 1980s and 90s, the proximity between these corrupt police officers and the national press was so extensive the area was known as the News of the World Regional Crime Squad. Dang. The senior luminary to come out of that area, Commander Ray Adams, was described at the time as Rupert Murdoch's yard man. He went on to become deputy head of security at NDS, the global security arm for Murdoch's News Corp. In the meantime, over the past 3 decades, the murders of Daniel Morgan and Stephen Lawrence were subject to a dozen or more partial and problematic police investigations. The 1998 McPherson inquiry into Stephen Lawrence's murder concluded that the Metropolitan Police was guilty of institutional racism. An independent review by Mark Ellison KC in 2014 around the phone hacking scandal established police corruption as a factor too. Similarly, the Daniel Morgan independent panel inquiry led by Baroness O'Lone, concluded in 2021 that the UK's largest police force suffered from institutional corruption. The News of the World was the main customer for Southern Investigations for almost 20 years, and Reese and Fillory trained and supported its star reporter, Mazir Mahmood. As he went undercover for 9 years, Haslam reported back to his handlers about the array of unlawful information gathering services available to Reese and Fillory, moonlighting police covert entry teams for break-ins, a BT engineer to tap phone lines, a bank employee to access confidential financial statements. Good God. Quote, "We can get to the Queen's medical records," Haslam recalls Reese once boasting, but most disturbing of all was the ready access to former or serving Met officers who could be bought off for unlawful information. Haslam's reports about unlawful news gathering and the probe in the premises of Southern Investigations caused a stir in the Met. Commander Bob Quick drew up a secret intelligence report detailing 46 media crimes and recommending the arrest of 2 News of the World journalists, Alex Marinchak and Mazir Mahmood, and Doug Kimster from the Mirror. But Quick's senior officers in the Met did nothing about the report. Indeed, several of them went on to accept well-paid columns in Murdoch's newspaper. More startling and surprising is Haslam's evidence against A&L, the publishers of the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday. He says Reese and Fillory were major suppliers of unlawful information to the Mail titles who were interested in finding out if Doreen Lawrence and her campaign for justice had been infiltrated by left-wing groups. Again, the major source for Southern Investigations stories were corrupt cops. Among the dozens of officers in regular communication during Reese and Fillory in their heyday were 2 men who played an important role in the original Stephen Lawrence murder investigation, Commander Ray Adams and his bagman, DC O.J. Davidson. Having left the force, both became, in Haslam's words, security consultants and important subcontractors for Southern Investigations. In the January print edition of Byline Times, Jake Arnott puts together some of the new evidence linking Davidson and Adams to both the Morgan and Lawrence cases. And former Guardian crime reporter Duncan Campbell and investigative journalist and whistleblower Dan Evans recollect the former flying squad detective John Ross, who also specialized in selling information to the Mail and other newspapers from corrupt serving officers and was also targeting Doreen Lawrence, according to Haslam. Haslam has already been the subject of spurious attacks by Fleet Street journalists because his evidence doesn't suit their industry or agenda. They would rather muddy the investigations into an infamous racist stabbing and an axe murder with low-level character assassinations and hatchet jobs against key witnesses. This is a disservice to the present as well as recent history and shows so much of the British press is more intent on deceiving their readers rather than informing them. They are trying to get away with murder. Once again, this was written by Peter Jukes, and he is the co-founder and executive editor of Byline Times. And they kept their foot on Piers Morgan's neck. They have been on Piers Morgan's neck for a very long time. I myself have been calling him out for years, but not since 2015. Well, Byline Times pulled the receipts. This article is titled, Piers Morgan, a pretty despicable human being. That pretty much sums it up accurately. I agree already. Following the landmark judgment against the Mirror Group in the High Court, Byline Times is reprinting Patty French's June 2015 Press Gang article about Piers Morgan and unlawful information gathering. First of all, sir, they couldn't have found you no better pants and shirt. The way this is colliding is catastrophic to my psyche. Just a mess. Quote, you don't get to be editor of the Mirror without being a fairly despicable human being. Piers Morgan to Kate Winslet, The Insider. When he appeared on Desert Island Discs in 2009, Piers Morgan was challenged about phone hacking. Presenter Kirsty Young asked him about dealing with people who listen to phone messages. Quote, people who tap people's phones. How did you feel about that? Morgan didn't deny the allegation. Quote, I'm quite happy to have to sit here defending all these things I used to get up to. I make no pretense about the stuff we used to do.
And what about this nice middle-class boy? People who tap people's phones, people who take secret photographs, who do all that very nasty down-in-the-gutter stuff.
Yeah,
How did you feel about that?
Well, no, a lot of it was done by third parties rather than the staff themselves. That's not to defend it. You were running the results of their work. I'm quite happy to be parked in the corner of tabloid beast and to have to sit here defending all these things I used to get up to. I make no pretense about the stuff we used to do. To people doing it was very wide and certainly encompassed the high and the low end of the supposed newspaper market.
Stuff we used to do. But after the revelation in July 2011 that Rupert Murdoch's journalist had hacked murdered schoolgirl Millie Dowler's mobile phone, he changed his tune. When the American Daily Beast website resurrected his Desert Island Discs comment in 2011, Morgan insisted, for the record, I have never hacked a phone, told anyone to hack a phone, or published any stories based on the hacking. While searching for the clip of his denial in 2011, I did find this article from The Guardian that really caught my eye. So they go over the comments that we just listened to from the 2009 Desert Island, where he essentially admitted to phone hacking and saying the stuff they all used to get up to. He also went on to say that was happening on the high and the low end of the media world at that time. But in this article in 2011, just a few years later, from The Guardian, listen to this. No pretense about the stuff we used to get up to. What stuff? That stuck out to me too. Morgan issued a statement to the Daily Beast in which he argued that there was no contradiction between his comments to Kirsty Young and his unequivocal statements with regard to phone hacking. He went on, quote, millions of people heard these comments and none deduced that I was admitting to or condoning illegal reporting activity. I deduced that. Kirsty asked me a fairly lengthy question about how I felt dealing with people operating at the sharp end of investigative journalism. She asked specifically about digging through trash and phone hacking. My answer was not specific to any of the numerous examples she gave, but a general observation about tabloid newspaper reporters and private investigators. As I have said before, I have never hacked a phone, told anyone to hack a phone, nor to my knowledge published any story obtained from the hacking of a phone. So he outright denies it here, but keep listening. So what stuff did he mean? Quite apart from that unknown stuff, Morgan's record as an editor was punctuated by ethical blemishes. Consider this as well. In April 2007, Morgan conducted an interview with Naomi Campbell for GQ magazine, which was published online in February of 2011. It appears under his byline in question and answer format, and the following exchange is surely significant. Naomi Campbell says, what do you think of the News of the World reporter who was recently found guilty of tapping the royals' phones? Did you ever allow that when you were there? Piers Morgan said, well, I was there in 1994 to 1995 before mobiles were used very much, and that particular trick wasn't known about. I can't get too excited about it, I must say. It was pretty well known that if you didn't change your PIN code when you were a celebrity who bought a new phone, then reporters could ring your mobile, tap in a standard factory setting number, and hear your messages. That is not to me as serious as planting a bug in someone's house, which is what some people seem to think was going on. Naomi Campbell says, it's an invasion of privacy, though. Piers Morgan says, it is, yes, but loads of newspaper journalists were doing it. Clive Goodman, the News of the World reporter, has been made the scapegoat for a very widespread practice. That's 2 different times now where he said everyone was doing it. So phone hacking is not as serious as planting a bug, and he can't get excited about it? Really? I have to say, I find it extraordinary that CNN either failed to research Morgan's journalistic past prior to hiring him, or, if it did so, that it did not take it seriously enough. He is the only editor to have suffered the indignity of the Press Complaints Commission's most powerful sanction, reference to his publisher for flagrant breaches of the editor's code of practice, and it happened twice. In the first case, when editing the News of the World in 1995, he was admonished in public by Rupert Murdoch for intruding into the privacy of Countess Spencer. In the second case, in 2011, when editing The Mirror, he was obliged to carry a 4-page critical adjudication. Lord, y'all hear me? A 4-page critical adjudication for buying stock in a company prior to it being tipped by his financial columnists. I wrote a piece then, editor with stains on his character, which suggested he was innocent but silly. In fact, 3 years later, during the trial of the Mirror's financial reporters, Hipwell and Anil Boral, new evidence came to light suggesting Morgan's shareholding was greater than the PCC had been led to believe. By that time, Morgan had been dismissed from the Mirror for having published hoax pictures of British soldiers abusing Iraqi prisoners. My God. Piers. Some record, for a U.S. news broadcaster's lead interviewer. Perhaps a CNN reporter should interview Morgan and ask him about the stuff that happened during his days as a British editor. As for Trinity Mirror's review, if it really wishes to attain a clean bill of health, surely it should look back at Morgan's share-dealing activities and explain why Morgan wasn't fired at that time. So again, that is from the Guardian article pertaining to the comments made about phone hacking in 2009 and his denial in 2011. The title of this article is Piers Morgan Faces Renewed Scrutiny Over Desert Island Discs Comments, and that is linked in the description box below. It also has a really convenient link to every one of these instances where it's reported originally. But in fact, the Daily Mirror had printed an article based on phone hacking more than a decade earlier. It was just as mobile phones were taking off, and Piers Morgan had been Daily Mirror editor for more than 2 years. Early in 1998, one of the paper's journalists in Dublin realized it was possible to access messages left on the mobile phones of senior Irish politicians. Reporter Carl Brophy, based at the Irish Parliament, proceeded to listen to messages left on the phone of the Irish leader, Taoiseach Bertie Ahern. I'm so sorry, I know I butchered that, but I gave it my best shot. He also successfully listened to messages left on the phones of other cabinet ministers. Brophy's article, published as an exclusive on Saturday, April 18, 1998, went into great detail about how phone messages could be hacked. Quote, the phone tap can be operated by anyone who knows the number of the mobile phone they wish to listen into. The article explained that mobile phones were sold with a standard password for stored messages that most people never changed. That means that anyone can listen in to another person's messages by simply phoning into their electronic mailbox and dialing the digits 0000. Once they have done this, the hacker has unlimited access to all the messages. The article was accompanied by an editorial. This stated, quote, if Richard Nixon had lived in Dublin, he would have had no need for Watergate. Instead of teams of bungling burglars, all he would have needed was a mobile phone to tap into the thoughts of his political rivals. The piece continued. The Irish Mirror discovered this amazing security breach and chose not to keep it under wraps. It is to be hoped the gap has been plugged before some unscrupulous eavesdropper has used it for sinister purposes. There was to be no phone hacking scandal in Ireland. Not a word of the story appeared in the mainland editions of the Daily Mirror. This was despite the fact that several million people of Irish descent lived in Britain, thousands of them Daily Mirror readers, and the implications of the story for the British political establishment were obvious. If British mobile phones were anything like their Irish counterparts, there was a potential security problem. There were also strong connections between the Irish edition and the paper's headquarters in London's Canary Wharf. The man in charge of the Irish Mirror was Craig Mackenzie, brother of Kelvin Mackenzie, Mirror Group Deputy Chief Executive. Kelvin Mackenzie was editor of The Sun when Piers Morgan started on the paper in the late 1980s. Both Mackenzie brothers were friends of Morgan's. Press Gang spoke to Carl Brophy last week. He said, "We wrote the story at a time when mobile phones were taking off. When you got your phone in those early days, it clearly told you to change your PIN immediately," he said. "The thing was that most older people didn't bother. So one day I just started phoning mobiles of politicians and seeing if they had changed their PINs. A lot hadn't, so I changed all the PINs of the ones who hadn't to a single 4-digit number so nobody else could listen in. I thought the fact that voice messages of government ministers and advisors could be so easily accessed was rather serious, especially considering where we were in 1998 with the peace process. In fact, the historic Good Friday Agreement had been signed a week earlier. All the ministers Brophy hacked immediately changed their PIN numbers after he told the government what he'd done. "15 months later, the Daily Mirror in London were told about security problems with mobile phones. Welsh sales manager Stephen Knott rang the paper in August 1999 about a flaw in Vodafone's system. He talked to Mirror Special Projects editor Unach Blackman. He told her that if people do not change the standard Vodafone 3333 PIN, anyone could dial in and listen to messages. Knott claims that initially Blackman was enthusiastic, but after 12 days told him the paper wasn't interested. The paper later sent him a $100 check or £100 check with a statement saying it was in relation to mobile phone scandal. Knott later told the Levinson Inquiry, "I accused the Daily Mirror of keeping the phone hacking method for their own purposes. But in addition to the Irish Mirror, there's evidence the paper's journalists were already deeply involved in the dark arts of illegal news gathering, including phone hacking." Central to this operation was senior reporter Gary Jones and his dealings with a corrupt firm of private detectives. Jones had been News of the World crime reporter when Piers edited the Sunday Tabloid in 1994 through 1995. Jones won the Press Gazette Reporter of the Year award in 1995 for his scoops. One of the most dramatic was a story about anonymous calls being made by Princess Diana. This was also one of the key stories in Piers Morgan's career. It impressed Rupert Murdoch, who liked big international controversies, especially if it also involved an attack on the British establishment he despised. This worldwide exclusive was based on a leaked investigation report from Scotland Yard. Press Gang, in the article Who Done It, revealed Piers Morgan almost certainly authorized an enormous payment to a recently retired senior police officer for access to the report. The sum is believed to have been in the hundreds of thousands of pounds. Piers Morgan was appointed Daily Mirror editor in 1995, and Gary Jones joined him the following year. Documentary evidence shows that by October 1997, Gary Jones was responsible for organizing much of the paper's clandestine operations. Jones was using the controversial detective agency Southern Investigations to illegally access information. The agency had also been working for the News of the World from the late 1980s, including the period Piers Morgan was editor. The firm was run by private eye Jonathan Rees. Rees had been a suspect in the murder of his partner Daniel Morgan in 1987. Daniel Morgan's place as Rees's partner was taken by former Scotland Yard Detective Sergeant Sid Fillery. Fillery had been part of the homicide team investigating the murder until his superiors realized he was a friend of Rees. Southern Investigations provided Gary Jones and the Mirror with one scoop after another. The evidence comes from a secret operation, 2 bridges, mounted by anti-corruption detectives at Scotland Yard. They bugged the offices of Southern Investigation and in September 1999, raided the firm and many of its network informants. From the files generated by this operation, Press Gang has already shown that in September 1998, phone hacking may have played a part in an exclusive about news presenter Kirsty Young's new relationship with millionaire businessman Nick Young. In our story Down in the Gutter, we showed that Southern Investigations followed Young over several days. The paper's reluctance to publish the story straight away suggests that the original source of the story may have come from phone hacking. In October 1998, Gary Jones and Unach Blackman published an article revealing the confidential mortgage details of members of the committee which set interest rates. In our article, Assault on the Bank of England, we showed that Southern Investigations had illegally blagged the information from banks and building societies. The firm sent one set of doctored invoices to the Daily Mirror accounts department, but Press Gang obtained a confidential statement sent to Gary Jones marked "For your information only," which reveals the true nature of the operation. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Invoices generated by Southern Investigations were using heavily disguised confidential inquiries, was the phrase used to cover up illegal activity ordered by Gary Jones on behalf of the Mirror. 4 of these invoices include parts of the telephone numbers. The first was in October 1997, long before the Irish Mirror published its piece. Southern Investigations was billing Jones for confidential inquiries relating to a telephone number showing just the dialing code 01480 Huntington. In 1998, there were 3 more invoices, again with only part of the number given. The sums involved, around £300 each, suggest these confidential inquiries involved printouts of calls made from the numbers. The Southern Investigations had people inside phone companies who made copies of itemized phone calls. Just how corrupt the relationship between Gary Jones and Jonathan Rees actually was is shown by a dramatic row which took place in July 1999. It's Tuesday, July 6, 1999, at the offices of Southern Investigations in Thornton Heath, South London. Jonathan Rees is busy. Some of his work is legitimate routine bread and butter stuff like serving writs and tracing people. But increasingly his time is taken up with obtaining confidential information and selling it to newspapers like News of the World and the Mirror Group. Unknown to him, every word he says today will be recorded. A bug has been planted in the building by anti-corruption detectives from Scotland Yard as part of the Operation Two Bridges. Two Bridges has 2 aims. One is to generate information about the murder of Daniel Morgan in 1998. The second is part of an attempt to prevent Southern Investigations from corrupting police officers. An internal Scotland Yard document, later leaked to the BBC Home Affairs correspondent Graham McLagan, spelt out the concerns. Rees and his partner, ex-Metropolitan Police Detective Sid Fillery, quote, "are alert, cunning, and devious individuals who have current knowledge of investigative methods and techniques which may be used against them. They use some of the techniques in their own daily activities, such as their level of access to individuals within the police through professional and social contacts, that the threat of compromise to any conventional investigation against them is constant and very real." But on that Tuesday, July 6, 1999, Rees is oblivious to the fact that his office is bugged, which he rings Gary Jones at the Daily Mirror to discuss invoices. He believes the conversation is private. Rees says he's faxing through a full list of invoices for the work done for the Mirror Group, including the Mirror, People, and the Sunday Mirror that year. The total is £16,991 for the 5 months. The list includes nearly £6,000 for the illegal supply of itemized printouts of calls made from phones. Rees says, when it comes through, you'll see the invoice with lots of stars next to them and roughly billed at about £300 odd, which is printouts. Rees tells Jones there are 19 of these printouts with the initials of the reporters who ordered them, with GJ being you. Later that day, Rees and Jones have another discussion about the lack of detail on the invoices relating to these printouts. Jones is under pressure from the paper's accounts department to provide more information on the Southern Investigations invoices. Rees loses his temper, quote, "Well, they are printouts. This is tiresome, effing tiresome. We are not going to put the numbers in there because what we are doing is illegal. I don't want people coming in and nicking us for criminal offense, you know." When this conversation takes place, Gary Jones is sitting at his desk in the Daily Mirror newsroom on the 22nd floor of the skyscraper at Canary Wharf. A few yards away is the editor's corner office. Can Piers Morgan have known absolutely nothing about Gary Jones' illegal activities? I know what I think, but I'll let you let me know in the live chat. Operation Two Bridges comes to an abrupt end in September 1999. The bug in Southern Investigations reveals Rees has a client fighting his estranged wife for custody of their child. Rees agrees to organize a conspiracy with a corrupt police officer to plant cocaine in the wife's car. The plan is to saddle her with a drugs conviction, so proving her to be an unfit mother. My God. The police pounce on the conspirators. Rees and the client are given 7-year prison sentences. The corrupt police officer is jailed for 5. Sid Fillery is not involved. When police closed in on the conspiracy, they also arrested many of those suspected of being involved in illegal news gathering. One of them was Doug Kempster, a reporter with the Sunday Mirror, part of the Mirror Group. An internal police report shows some senior police officers wanted a conviction. Quote, It is likely that journalists and private investigators who actively corrupt serving officers would receive a long custodial sentence if convicted. There will be a high level of media interest in this particular investigation, especially when involving journalists. The Metropolitan Police will undoubtedly benefit if a journalist is convicted of corrupting serving police officers. This will send a clear message to members of the media to consider their own ethical and illegal involvement with employees of the Met in the future. Police submitted a file to the Crown Prosecution Service, which decided not to charge the reporter. Kempster's arrest sent shockwaves around senior management at the Mirror Group, but it did not stop illegal news gathering at Piers Morgan's Daily Mirror. With Jonathan Rees in jail, the paper turned to another private eye, Steve Whittemore. By the time he was arrested for breaches of the Data Protection Act in 2003, the paper had spent at least £92,000 with the private eye. Everybody this man is connected to is convicted or suspected of illegal news information gathering, and it is not a coincidence in my opinion. I don't really believe in coincidences, but especially not to this degree. In our article, Who Done It, we exclusively revealed that one of the Mirror reporters who apparently commissioned work from Whittemore was Tom Newton Dunn. Today, he's the political editor of The Sun. In the early 2000s, Dunn's name was recorded by Whittemore as the Mirror contact for a criminal record check of a parliamentary candidate. This was Adrian Fluke, who later became Tory MP for Taunton. Newton Dunn does not answer our emails. Hell, I wouldn't either. Is it possible Piers Morgan didn't know what was going on at the Mirror when he was editor? During the Levinson inquiry, journalist James Hipwell gave evidence about phone hacking when he worked at the Mirror between 1998 and 2000. Hipwell was a financial journalist and worked close to the paper's showbiz reporters. He said they hacked openly and frequently. Hacking was a bog-standard journalistic tool for gathering information. He had no direct evidence Piers Morgan was involved, but added, I would say that it is very unlikely that he didn't know it was going on. The newspaper was built around the cult of Piers. He was the paper. Nothing happened at the newspaper without him knowing. When he gave evidence, Morgan was contemptuous of Hipwell. Hipwell had been jailed for 6 months for insider dealing in 2000 while working for the paper's City Slickers column. He bought shares in a company owned by Alan Sugar before they were tipped by the column. The shares rocketed in value the next day. Piers Morgan also bought shares, but always insisted he didn't know they were going to be the subject of a Mirror article. It's interesting, all these, oops, not me, didn't know. In a statement to Levinson, Morgan wrote, quote, I note that Mr. Hipwell is a convicted criminal who changed his story on a number of occasions during the City Slickers investigation, in part to wrongfully implicate me. I believe any testimony he gives to be inherently unreliable. That is very similar to the statement he made the other day. Levinson, though, found Hipwell a credible witness. The inquiry does conclude that the practice of phone hacking may well have taken place at the Mirror titles at the time Mr. Hipwell was working there. Levinson also questioned Piers Morgan about his comment after the 2007 Gowling of News of the World royal correspondent Clive Goodman for hacking royal phones. Morgan had been Goodman's editor at the News of the World in 1994 to 1995. Quote, I feel a lot of sympathy for a man who has been the convenient fall guy for an investigative practice that everyone knows was going on at every paper in Fleet Street for years. That's the third time we've heard him say something of that nature. Morgan told Levinson he was talking about the rumor mill at the time and that phone hacking wasn't happening at the Daily Mirror. Remember the first time he said to Naomi Campbell that he wasn't talking about phone hacking, he was talking about everything she was discussing, including the trash gathering. Levinson was caustic. This was not, in any sense at all, a convincing answer. Overall, Mr. Morgan's attempt to push back from his own bullish statement to the Press Gazette was utterly unpersuasive. More and more evidence is emerging about the dark arts at the Daily Mirror. So far, Operation Golding, the Scotland Yard operation into the phone hacking at the Mirror Group, has seen 15 journalists, including Piers Morgan, questioned under caution. The investigation continues. Scores of civil claims are also generating large amounts of information. In May, Mr. Justice Mann ordered the Mirror Group to pay 8 victims a massive £1.2 million in damages. 6 were victims of the Daily Mirror during Piers Morgan's tenure, including the actress Sadie Frost and the footballer Paul Gascoigne. The judgment also revealed that the Mirror papers admitted paying over £2.25 million and over 13,000 invoices to certain named private eyes in the years from 2000 to 2007. Mr. Justice Mann noted that the Mirror's legal team acknowledged that an unquantifiable but substantial number of the inquiries made of the agents is likely to have been to obtain private information that could not be obtained lawfully. Now, this was originally published on Press Gang, a Dial M from Morgan on June 29, 2015. And of course, he did not respond to requests for comment, and this was written by Patty French. Excellent job, Patty French. Piers Morgan has never been one to stay on the straight and narrow. As a matter of fact, he publicly contradicts himself a lot. I would even venture to say more than anyone else that we talk about on this channel. And that's saying something because we talk about a wide array of individuals, particularly nefarious British individuals. So the fact that he has contradicted himself, especially on this phone hacking thing, so often is not a surprise. But on November 30th, I actually published a video titled "Harry and Meghan Maintain Dignified Silence," and it's got this thumbnail that says "Who said what?" and it digs into the claims of people commenting about concerns of Prince Archie's impending skin color, and this was when Meghan was pregnant with him. And I included a clip, and this is way back on November 30th, and this is actually the third time I've used this clip. The first time I used it was October of last year, and then I used it again when we were discussing some things in February, but I used it recently on November 30th to point out how Piers Morgan openly warned Meghan that the royal family was racist, only for him to then backtrack and say that he doesn't think any royal has said anything racist about Meghan. And it just goes to show that this man lacks any kind of dignity and he absolutely has zero integrity. Take a look here. Again, if you want to check out the video in full, it's on my channel. It was on November 30th, so just 2 weeks ago. So feel free to go check it out.
Because I don't believe any racist comments were ever made by any of the royal family.
Meghan's marrying into a family which has, to put it mildly, a dodgy track record on race. It's not Meghan Markle's problem, it's their problem.
Now, am I accusing Piers Morgan of phone hacking? Nope, not on my platform. But I am saying I don't believe in coincidences. What I am saying is I believe Piers Morgan knows a lot more than Piers Morgan is admitting to in the present day. However, Piers Morgan of 2009 would beg to differ. And Piers Morgan of 2009 admitted to phone hacking and saying that the entire industry from the high end to the low end was taking part. There are multiple people who have very similar stories of how Piers Morgan has not only bragged, but trained others on how to phone hack. In public settings, at dinners, inside the office, it was no secret, but it could be described as an open secret, according to them. Do I believe that a man was the editor of a news publication and had no idea that phone hacking was taking place in his office? No. Is it possible? Sure. Do I believe that that same man went on to work for different publications throughout his career, and at each one there has been evidence of phone hacking taking place where he was the editor? Do I believe that that could happen more than one time and he didn't know about it? Absolutely not. Unequivocally 100% no. I do not believe that a person can work and be the head editor-in-chief of the entire office and not know that phone hacking was taking place, and then go on to work at several other publications where the same thing is happening and he's still in the dark. Either he's a shit editor or he's a criminal. But I always like to leave room for both. So what I'll say is this. Instead of worrying about Prince Harry's tan, which looks great, by the way, instead of worrying about Prince Harry's millions, which, get that paper, instead of worrying about Prince Harry's house and Prince Harry's gorgeous, successful, and independently wealthy wife, you should worry more about telling us why we should believe that you didn't have anything to do with the phone hacking. And you know what? Don't tell us. Just get ready for your day in court. Tell the judge. Don't worry about us. Tell the judge. Stop talking to us on your shows and outside of your house looking musty. Stop talking to us on your way into your car, taking digs, many personal jabs at Prince Harry, someone who probably forgot you exist. Stop talking to us about the bullshit and talk to us about the real. I refuse to believe that this person in 2009 told us he knew far and wide that phone hacking was happening. In 2011, walked it back with an unpersuasive statement. And in today's time, after many, many, many accusations of him being present and at times teaching people how to phone hack, knows nothing about it. Tell us why we should believe you. Don't tell us why we shouldn't believe Harry. Tell us why we should believe you. And apparently, I'm not the only person who feels that way. Sir Allen, a former Lord Justice of Appeal, warned, quote, "The whole system has never held to account those in charge, the proprietors and the editors, because they poured money into settlement and only people like Prince Harry had the resources to pursue the case." He told the BBC's Today program if people lied to Sir Brian Levinson, the chair of the official inquiry into the phone hacking, then they ought to be prosecuted for perjury. I could not agree more. As Prince Harry stated, the world depends on its news. The bar should be raised, and there needs to be far more resources to standardize it. We should be able to trust our news. But I'm not going to lie, this has thrown so many people into a tizzy. The British media are panicking. They do not believe in accountability. And it's very evident that Rachel Johnson, who is arguing that the Duke of Sussex goaded the press into humiliating payouts, is saying it's a lose-lose situation, is shaking in her boots. Let's take a look at what she had to say on the LBC, and then I'm going to give you my opinion afterwards.
I find it hard to see who is the winner here. Prince Harry goading the press is only forcing the press into humiliating payouts. Is not going to be particularly good for the Sussexes. Is not going to be particularly good for the Sussexes. Not great for the press, which is on the hook. I think we only have losers here, and it's in all our interests that we have a strong, vigorous and honest press. Who wins out of this? Has Prince Harry done the press lasting damage? We're going to see some sort of state regulation of the press. I genuinely hope not. This is my industry, and I think it's in all our interests. You read the newspapers in the States or in France, they're very dull. They're not entertaining at all. It can have both a serious and an entertaining press, and that's what I want to see survive. I don't want to see Prince Harry destroy the industry I love.
And if she looks familiar, but maybe you can't quite put your finger on who she is, this is Rachel Johnson. She's the one who wrote the article in November of 2016 calling Meghan's DNA exotic and later claiming she didn't know that comment was racist. So this is the comment she made. Genetically, she is blessed. If there is issue from her alleged union with Prince Harry, the Windsors will thicken their watery thin blue blood and Spencer pale skin and ginger hair with some rich and exotic DNA. Miss Markle's mother is a dreadlocked African-American lady from the wrong side of the tracks who lives in LA, and even the sourest spinster has to admit that the 35-year-old actress is extremely easy on the eye. Those are really comments that she made. Later, she denounced the comments, saying that, only after Harry had his press secretary release a comment or a statement about the abuse that Meghan was receiving. And he said the racial undertones of comment pieces were part of a wave of abuse and harassment directed at Meghan. So then Johnson got scared, and Johnson apologized during an interview for a 2018 documentary titled The Royal Wives of Windsor. And she said, I for one celebrated the fact that she was mixed race, but I used an unfortunate word, which was exotic. I meant that in a marvelous contrast to the gingery white blood of his own blood family on his maternal side, but it didn't go down well, and I hereby apologize, Harry. Now, this is part of my issue too. Do y'all remember my video Apology or Alice in Apology Land, where that lady, I think it was Alice Newbold, wrote an entire article about her apology to Harry for all the nasty things that she said about Meghan? And my whole video was like, well, why are you apologizing just to Harry if the disgusting comments and the discrimination was towards Meghan? She is a person with feelings and deserves to be acknowledged respectfully and outright. Your apology goes to her, period. And they have this way of only acknowledging the man or the white person who validates the black person or the half black or the mixed race or however you want to refer to them. Anybody who is not white, they refer to your representative, which is either the man in your life or the white person in your life. And that is a form of discrimination. And they do it on purpose. That is intentional. And you will never convince me otherwise. Because how on earth are you going to, let's say, step on my foot and then look at my husband and be like, sorry, John. Excuse me. My foot's the one crunched up here looking like a crunchy French fry. Apologize to me. But no, they apologize to the man or the white representative. It's a way of dehumanizing Meghan, and I see what you're doing. But anyway, let me respond directly to the things that she said in this video, but I just wanted to remind you of who she was, and we've been here before with Miss Rachel Johnson. But let me tell you my thoughts on what she said. I'm going to go point by point. So she made 8 major points in this video, and I want to respond to each of them. 1. She asked the question, who is the winner here? Rachel, we are the winners. The citizens, the people who rely on the news to know what's going on in the world. Those are the winners. They should be the focus, and this is for them. Hope I cleared that up for you, Rachel. 2, she said Prince Harry is forcing the press into humiliating payouts. This is victim blaming. This is no different than when people say, are you really going to ruin that man's legacy by telling what he did to you? It's the same energy. The accountability is necessary. If you don't want your legacy ruined, if you don't want to have to remit payouts, if you don't want to have to own up to what you did, then only do things you would be proud of owning up to. It's that simple. If you did the crime, you've got to do the time. If you have to pay, then pay. Prince Harry is not responsible for protecting the bottom line of the press that not only harmed him, but many, many others who didn't have the resources to get their just due. So yes, if Prince Harry decided to take them to court, it was for a reason, and we should focus on that reason rather than does he have the right to speak up for the millions of citizens that have been his subjects his entire life? Why not ask this question? Why is Prince Harry the only one stepping up? His entire family should have been present in that courtroom. His entire family should have been giving statements. His entire family should have been holding the press to account. They work together. They're essentially business partners. They can use the press to humiliate Harry and his wife, but they can't ask the press not to be racist. They can't ask the press not to phone hack. They can't ask the press to not abuse him or incite extremists to try and kill him. They can't do the bare minimum. They should have all been calling out that phone hacking. So don't ask why Prince Harry was doing it. Ask why Prince Harry was the only royal there. Number 3, she said it's not going to be good for the Sussexes. This one bothered me. What does this mean, Rachel Johnson? Because the press have essentially done their absolute worst with Harry and Meghan. And not only that, we're really only identifying the British press in this situation, although I think worldwide, everyone should learn from what's going on, and I hope everyone upgrades their standards. But we're talking about the British press for Harry and Meghan who don't live in the UK. Why would they be worried? Why is this not good for them, Rachel? Are you in some way admitting that the press targets Harry and Meghan, and when they're held to account, they now commit retaliation? I want you to finish that thought, Rachel Johnson, because you almost made a good point. She went on to say, quote, this is not great for the press, which is on the hook. So why is accountability not great for the press? Because here's the thing, if you're admitting that the press is on the hook because of their poor behavior, their unlawful behavior, then them being on the hook is 100% their doing. And if accountability isn't the recipe for unlawful behavior, then what is? In my opinion, the comment, this is not good for the press, which is on the hook, is the fact that she doesn't want regulation, which she later goes on and admits that she doesn't, because they want to be able to stalk, harass, mistreat, abuse, racially discriminate against anybody they want to. And they don't want restriction on that because they want to make it a free-for-all. And that to me is disgusting. For me, I cannot believe she got on TV and said this. She said the quiet part out loud. We want to be able to disrespect and harm and literally illegally stalk anyone we want to. And I don't want anyone to be able to tell us no. Well, Rachel, you have an issue with boundaries already, which we've already covered, so I won't go back. But it would be in everyone's best interest for every single career field, for every single industry to have regulation. Could you imagine if doctors went on strike because they had to uphold standards set by a third-party regulator? Could you imagine that? Could you imagine if the cars that we drive, the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink and use to bathe ourselves and clean our things, could you imagine if none of those things were regulated? I can imagine, and it would be absolute anarchy and mayhem. Rachel Johnson, you are from the days of old. people who don't believe in accountability only for those who look like them. I don't understand what you expect to gain from a press with no restriction other than what we already see, which is targeted harassment, unlawful behavior, and racial abuse. She also went on to say, we need to have a strong, vigorous, and honest press. This is the only point she made that we agree on. So why is accountability and regulation the exclusive party to a strong and vigorous, honest press? If anything, regulation will help it to remain strong, will help it to stand up to proper reporting and help that the news that you read and listen to and watch is truthful. Do you want to be fed lies? No. But does she want to spew them? Yes. The next question she said was, who wins in all of this? Has Prince Harry done lasting damage to the press? God, I hope so. I hope in its current state, Prince Harry has dealt the final blow to the press as the British people know it today. Because I believe that y'all deserve honest and fair coverage. I think, in my opinion, everyone in the world deserves to know what's going on in their world, in their home, and abroad, or wherever else, and be able to rely on the name on the headline, on the name on the banner, on the name at the end of the article. And you can move forward with reading and believing whatever it is that you're consuming because there is now trust built. You should be able to have trust in the news that lands on your doorstep, on the news that's on TV, on the news that's on the radio. Anywhere you consume information, you should be able to trust that it is truthful. What kind of society would we be if we allowed lies, bullying, and harassment? She also said outright she doesn't want regulation of the press, and I want someone to ask her why. Just outright, let her speak. Why don't you want regulation of the press? Every industry has regulation. Why should the press and the media be any different? And lastly, she said the newspapers in the UK are the best of the world because they're entertaining. She went on to say that in the US, our news is boring. And while our news is not perfect, we can damn sure report when it's not true. And we can make sure we get those retractions printed because we hold our news to account. Only a person with the intent to deceive does not want regulation. And also, side note, the truth is not always entertaining. Baby, if you want to be entertained, go watch something else. Go watch a program, get Netflix, go get something interesting, go get Peacock, go get Hulu. Be entertained by what's supposed to be entertaining. But your news should just be truthful. I mean, I don't know what she wants from people. The news has to be entertaining? No, but the news does have to be truthful. And hopefully regulations will become part of the standard there and you can rely on your news. Rachel Johnson, you made yourself look even more the idiot that we already thought you were. Y'all, let me know what you think in the live chat. What do you think of all this? What was your reaction to this video? Let me know. Just a reminder, we are still conducting our Fisher House Foundation fundraiser for the month of December, so feel free to hit that donate button at the bottom of the screen, or if you're watching during the live stream, use the heart, the giving heart in the corner of the live chat box. Now, because this is charity, once you hit donate through the YouTube links, YouTube will donate the entire amount to the fundraiser. They do not take a percentage as they do with every other form of monetary giving on their platform. But when it is a donation, meaning you use the donate button or the heart button at the bottom of the live chat, then they do not take a percentage. Thank you so much, YouTube, for supporting foundations like Fisher House Foundation and other charities and organizations by giving 100%. And if you prefer to use the original campaign or the original fundraiser campaign page from Streamlab, feel free, no worries at all. Use the link in the description box below to give directly to the fundraiser page. Once again, thank y'all so much for participating in the fundraiser. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give y'all a little update. Before I do, I want to make an announcement. Thank you so much, Nanao, who just became a member of the channel. Welcome. Thank you so much. I don't know if I announced it last week, but I believe it happened after we finished in the live stream, and I wanted to shout you out. But we started our fundraiser with a grand goal of $500, right? Across all giving methods, we have now reached $2,342.05. Thank y'all so much. The military families who benefit from this are going to be so grateful. Thank you so much, Fisher House Foundation, for all that you do. And thank you so much for letting me be a groundbreaker and being able to help and contribute in any way that we can. And thank y'all so much for being so generous. I know it's right before Christmas and that's no easy feat. And I can't say enough how much I appreciate the community that you guys have welcomed me into. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you helping out with the fundraiser. It means the world. So now that we've gotten an update, which we've been putting in work, and we still have like 15 days to go. So yeah, I'm so excited to see what we end up actually reaching as a grand total. I'm so excited. But next, we are actually going to talk about a little grievance that I had. Y'all know I was on the fence about watching The Crown. And so I did watch part 1 because I watched up until season 6. And so I did watch part 1 because I was like, why not? It's ending. Let's see the end of the story. And then I read Peter Morgan's interview with Variety, and I was completely turned off from The Crown. I decided, because I had made a commitment publicly to at least watch part 1. I said, well, I'm not going to lie. If I told them I would watch part 1, then I'm watching part 1. And I did. And I did a review video. Once I did the review video, I was very honest. And I said, but I ain't doing a part 2. I'm not. Because I thought Peter Morgan's Variety interview was a little bit snarky regarding Harry. And I didn't mind him saying he didn't reference Spare for season 6. I just assumed season 6 was already written by the time Spare was released. And so it wouldn't have made sense to go back and do rewrites. That was my assumption. Until I made a little discovery today. Now, I didn't watch part 2. I held to that. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people have requested that I do it, but I can't. But I did see a few headlines that made me say, I'm going to look that up, and we're going to talk about that in particular. So I did look up one storyline. I watched it, and we're going to talk about it here because I think it's important that every time this comes up, we use the truth that has been graciously provided to us to combat the lies. I don't do lies. There's one thing about creative license. You add a little smirk here, a little hairstyle here, a little whatever, you want to jazz it up. Go ahead, fine. But to outright lie, and then to claim, I didn't read Spare, not interested, nor did I use it I didn't reference it to write my show, and my writers didn't reference it. So why is some of the dialogue verbatim what was in Spare? So I went ahead and pulled receipts from both, and we're going to talk about it. So let's get started. To this day, one of my absolute favorite benefits of having Spare at our fingertips is that we can now cross-reference every story involving Prince Harry, his father, his mother, and even William with an actual, credible, and valid source. Gone are the days where anything involving Harry, we just kind of have to wait and see if they'll respond to it, look for evidence, and comb through videos, footage, and comments from quote-unquote sources, which we don't do that here anyway. But it's great that we now have Spare, Harry and Meghan, the interviews, etc., because now we can reference the truth. And I'm looking at you, Crown Season 6, Part 2. Now, as y'all know, I opted out of Part 2 of The Crown's Season 6, which is its finale season. And the reason for that is because Part 1 left me with such utter disdain for Peter Morgan and everyone who works for him that I just didn't want to put myself through that. I knew I wasn't going to enjoy it. I knew it was lies. I just said, why? For what? It's not even enjoyable. So I opted out. But that didn't stop me from noticing a trend. As you know, Prince Harry had a major win in the High Court on Friday. Many people counted him out, and we talked about this in depth on Friday and Saturday. But something I noticed immediately, the story of Prince Harry's infamous costume came back. I mean, just look at these headlines. There could be a few reasons for these headlines. Well, The Crown Season 6 premiered on December 15th, and it included the infamous costume, which brought renewed interest. So there's that. But I also thought the timing was suspicious because of Prince Harry's win. Many British newspapers and media outlets weren't even reporting on it for a full 24 hours, some even 48 and 72 hours in. Mind you, they are usually the first to report on anything Harry related as long as they can attach a negative headline. So I found it oddly suspicious that you ice him out when it comes to his huge legal win in your homeland. But now you want to talk about the costume? A 20-year-old controversy? Something he addressed at the top of the year and has addressed many times since? On camera? I don't find that to be a coincidence, and I think they're trying to distract from his win. This was only half of the first page of Prince Harry search, and 80% of the headlines on the first 3 pages were about the costume. And the reason? Because of the crown. I think 2 things can be true at once, but I personally feel they were looking for any reason to negatively deflect from Prince Harry's win. But not only was that bad enough, the way the story was told in The Crown was false. They got a number of things incorrect. Actually, the entire season 6, part 2, they changed Harry's age. They used some of his actual recorded verbiage and commentary and gave that to William to show William as more compassionate. They essentially made Prince Harry a B plot character used to only amplify William, at least in part 1. In part 2, like I said, I didn't watch. But what I did do was I went and found that segment, season 6, episode 10, at the 27-minute timestamp, and I did watch how they portrayed Prince Harry in the costume incident. So that we can create clarity and we can reference the original and only true valid source, I am going to show us blow by blow how The Crown told the story versus how Harry told it as the truth. So let's take a look.
Germany had an empire, didn't they? What about this?
I don't know. Maybe cover the swastika?
Oh, come on. Wearing the outfit doesn't make him a Nazi.
More than a birthday party, it was a fancy dress party with a cringy theme. Natives and colonials was my nightmare. Pass. Hard pass. Willie, however, insisted. We'll find you something to wear, Harold. His new girlfriend promised to help. With her help, Willie had chosen for himself some kind of feline outfit. Skin-tight leotard with a springy, bouncy tail, a British pilot's uniform, and a sand-coloured Nazi uniform, and a flat cap. I phoned Willie and Kate, asked what they thought. Nazi uniform, they said. I tried it all on. They both howled. Worse than Willie's leotard outfit. Way more ridiculous, which again was the point.
I find it interesting because in his interview with Variety, which we detailed here on a former episode, Peter Morgan went on the record to say they did not use Spare in any way in creating season 6. They did not reference Spare, which contains a first-hand account from Prince Harry of what happened with this uniform. I find that interesting because prior to Spare, many people, I don't know if anyone, but many people didn't know that in choosing this outfit, Prince Harry came down to 2 options: a pilot's uniform or the, I can't say that word, uniform. And we all know the one he chose. Now, for the creators behind The Crown to not use Spare, but use that key detail that he came down to 2 options, and we see that played out in the show, lets me know that they did in some way reference it. Another point that happened in Spare was Prince Harry literally said, I found the not C uniform with the armband. He said that specifically, and a mustache, but he made it a point to say with the armband in Spare. However, for them to not reference it, they made it a point in The Crown to say with the armband. And that's just such an interesting detail because we all saw the armband. There was no reason to point it out. Harry did so because he was giving us details. But why did The Crown use Harry's dialogue for their dialogue if they didn't use Spare for The Crown? I knew Peter Morgan was full of shit when he said he wasn't going to reference Spare. He absolutely did, or someone on that writing team did, because those 2 similarities are uncanny, especially for those very small, minute details. But something else I find interesting, since we now have multiple instances where they literally use the exact same verbiage from Spare for the dialogue in The Crown, something they claim they did not use when creating The Crown. They made it a point to note the armband, but they completely ignored the story. According to Prince Harry, the only person who has given a first-hand account who was actually there, and the only person who faced real consequences from the actions that took place, said he chose the outfit once he called William and Kate, who had opted to help both guys pick a uniform or pick an outfit for the party. She helped William pick out the feline outfit. And so then she weighed in on Harry's decision to wear the uniform. He said he called them from the costume shop. He said, I'm down to two options, the pilot's uniform or the not C uniform. They said, definitely the not C uniform. He chose it along with a mustache and went home. He tried it on for them. He said they howled in approval. They liked the option, and they had no contest whatsoever to him picking that uniform. However, knowing that they used exact verbiage for the dialogue in The Crown that was used in Spare, they still used this lie, which in my opinion is clearly overt, where they had Kate say, maybe cover the armband. That's a key detail that they intentionally gave to Kate. They are really trying to repair her racist image, and they are using Prince Harry to do it. They even went as far as to have William say, keep the armband. No one is going to think that he's a not C just for wearing a costume to a party. I watched the entire event play out, and then once that was over, I ignored it. I went back to ignoring the Crown part 2, but I just had to see how they portrayed that because everyone was in an uproar, and I'm like, well, he did say he didn't read Spare, so maybe it's just the generic way the story's been told all the way up until we knew the truth. Okay, fine, whatever, it's just a show. But no, to see that they actually used certain verbiage that was key in Spare and they used it in dialogue in The Crown, calls into question Peter Morgan's own statements that they did not use Spare and reference it in any way to create The Crown season 6. Bullshit. But for them to actually point out the armband, which is what Harry pointed out in Spare, and then still say, still have Kate in the show say, cover the armband, when in reality, that is not true. This is intentional misconstruing of events when we have the actual true story right here. And also, if you were going to portray that event, why wouldn't you use the person who was in it? Why wouldn't you use their firsthand account? That makes no sense. But I've read Peter Morgan more than enough, but I thought that was just so intentional and so deceitful for the creators of The Crown. And it affirmed my choice not to partake in part 2. Part 1 of season 6 was already BS enough. Part 2 absolutely sent me over the edge from just that little bit that I watched. If you want to see the whole thing, it's on Netflix. Judge for yourself. Let me know what you think, but it is on Netflix. It is season 6, episode 10. The timestamp is at the 27-minute mark. They used much of Harry's dialogue from Spare to tell this story while still misconstruing the events to make him look even worse than he already looked. But for anyone questioning if he felt sorry, how he felt about it, did he actually, repent for what he did? I want to let Harry tell the story of the fallout from that, because too many people like to use this as like a whipping stick against him. But here's the thing, you cannot burn somebody with their own BS if they've already owned it. You can't tell him he's wrong for what he did because he'll beat you to it. You can't tell him that he'll never get over the guilt from that because he'll beat you to it. He literally said he's never gotten over the guilt he felt from that. Anytime it's necessary, he's happy to publicly repent and say that he's sorry because he knows that it was wrong. Although it was a youthful mistake, he knew the weight of it and he went through the action to make amends. And to this day, he says he still feels that that's not enough. But don't listen to me. Listen to Harry.
The shame would never fade, nor should it. So Pa sent me to a holy man. He was chief rabbi of Britain, that much I'd been told. An eminent scholar, a religious philosopher, a prolific writer with more than 24 books to his name. He didn't mince words. He condemned my actions. He wasn't unkind, but it had to be done. He spoke about the 6 million, the annihilated, Jews, Poles, dissenters, intellectuals, homosexuals, children, babies, old people, turned to ash and smoke. A bottomless self-loathing. But that wasn't the rabbi's aim. That certainly wasn't how he wanted me to leave him. He spoke to me with the quality one often encounters in truly wise people. Forgiveness. He assured me that people do stupid things, say stupid things, but it doesn't need to be their intrinsic nature. To the extent that he was able and qualified, he absolved me. He gave me grace, used this experience to make the world better, to become a teacher of this event. Hennes, I thought, would have liked the sound of that.
Now, if you want to hear Harry's version for yourself, that is the audiobook of Spare, written by Prince Harry. And if you want to hear that yourself, that is part 1, chapters 49 through 51, where he speaks about the incident outright in plain English and he describes it blow by blow. He also describes his atonement and his repentance. So I hope this closes the matter. I doubt that it will because of the way the Crown portrayed Prince Harry. There was also something that I didn't mention. The way they showed Prince Harry getting the news, they were really trying to humiliate him. Let me show you what I mean.
Fuck!
Y'all, they allowed William, fully dressed, to find the newspaper on the end table or for the hallway table, looking perfectly prim and proper. And they showed Harry in an extremely disheveled room, pizza crust, beer cans. They made sure to include the costume with the armband visible, staring directly center focus at the camera. He is half naked. And I don't know if you saw in the background, but there was a girl half dressed, asleep, practically upside down in the background as well. So they showed William looking distinguished. Mind you, they went to the same party, but they showed Harry looking a hot mess. They showed Charles finding out at the breakfast table, Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip. They showed everyone else finding out the news in like a really distinguished manner. And then they put Prince Harry in a dirty ass room, half naked with pizza crust and a random half naked girl to find it out. And if that wasn't bad enough, then they put the boy on a toilet. Peter Morgan, you will pay for your crimes. Why are you so angry at Harry? You are not in that man's family. Whatever he has said about his family and about the British press, eat it. Get over it. But it is not up to you to make amends on behalf of Prince Harry to the royal family. How dare you? This entire season was a propaganda machine. Pro Charles, pro Camilla, pro William, pro Kate. They need to stop. And honestly, parts of it were actually kind of anti-Kate, but he is absolutely trying to appeal to the interests of the royal family, and he cannot deny it. Why on earth would you depict something and use everything except the firsthand account of the person it entails? That one, as a creative, that doesn't make any sense. Two, why would you obviously use that book? Despite what you've said, you used exact excerpts to create your dialogue for this season, for this episode. So you can't say you didn't use the book. Somebody in your writer's room used the book. And then you use the book in order to take certain key details out of place to make it pro Kate and William and anti Harry. And then if that wasn't bad enough, they said, let's put Harry in a dirty ass room with a random dirty girl with pizza crust and put him half naked looking drunk, despite him and his brother going to the same party. And let's put him on the toilet right quick. Y'all put that man on the pot in order to show him his most degrading moment ever. Ooh, you are going to pay for your crimes, Peter Morgan. Not only that, you didn't show any of his repentance, despite it being mapped out in Spare. What is with everybody else orbiting the royal family, thinking it's their place to dig into the issues and make Harry pay for telling the truth? Toxic cycle always has its flying monkeys, aka its enablers. And Peter Morgan, you just signed yourself up to be the worst version of an enabler because you don't even have close proximity to the royals and you're still going this hard, ruining your reputation as a creative to go this hard. You ruined your own show to stick it to Harry, who is essentially the king of Netflix right now. Oh, my man's has it in. He's making projects with his wife. You decided to tank essentially your career, a career that you've used to follow the life of Queen Elizabeth, to degrade her grandson on a platform where he is also employed. Does that make sense? No, but a lot of the things that these derangers and these pro-royalists have made common and has had in common is that they never make sense. None of them make sense. They are taking a private family matter that was only made public because the royals made it public, and then they added a whole bunch of lies for a little sugar on top to attack Harry and Meghan. And all Harry and Meghan have done is say, hey, here's the truth since you guys keep lying on us. And Peter Morgan and the lot have taken it upon themselves to try and put Harry in his place over a family matter. You tanked your own career and reputation to antagonize the grandson of the person you said you respect the most. Peter Morgan, you will pay for your crimes. Also, key detail in Spare, Prince Harry made it a point to say that William had a nasty habit of negging him in joint interviews. He said this all the time. He said that William would always talk about how dirty Harry was and how he didn't clean up after himself and how he was a handful with chores. And Harry actually said because of his time in the military, etc., he's always been a pretty disciplined person, but he's always been a pretty clean person. He didn't take, you know, he made sure his hygiene and his surroundings were always clean and up to par. That was always something that was just natural to him. He's never been an outright slob. And he said that William would often portray this version of him to the public in order to make himself look like the orderly person and the responsible person. And he said in interviews, he would often play it down, but it really confused him because he's like, why would you just outright lie on me? He brought this up in Spare. And in the past, we've actually taken a look at some of the interviews where William has done that, where he's nagged Harry for no reason. And Harry has had like a coy but a shy response. But you could tell that he was like, that's not true. So I found it to be interesting, but also kind of heartbreaking that Peter Morgan decided to play that card as well. Peter Morgan, how many conversations did you have with William to create this season? I'm really curious because he made sure to put all of Harry's surroundings just askew, just trash, food, drinks, mess, everything. He looked for anything that's ever been attached to a scandal involving Harry and made sure it was depicted in that bedroom scene. I froze the scene and looked at each thing and I was just kind of like, Peter Morgan, Harry is better than me because Peter and I would have to fight outside. My guy would get a swift uppercut because what you're not about to do is lie on me. But good for Harry for ignoring it. He probably didn't even know season 6 came out. Y'all know he is not. He's over that show. It came out maybe this summer that no one expected Harry to watch it. Once they started covering Diana, no one expected Harry to watch it because he used to watch it. And actually, that's something that a lot of the royals have said. A lot of the sources about the other royals have said that Queen Elizabeth stopped watching after season 3. She used to watch it and then she stopped after season 3. And a lot of the royals stopped watching as it got closer to present day. I guess because it got closer to portraying people they knew personally or just kind of more recent events. And it makes sense. And I'm glad to know that that's what happened because Peter just outright lied on Harry. He outright lied. And that's really sad and pathetic. Did y'all watch season 6 part 2? If you did, what did you think of the entire season 6 part 2? Because I didn't watch it. What did you think of part 2? Did you watch? And did you see this scene or this storyline? What did you think of their portrayal? I was so disappointed in Peter Morgan and anyone who had anything to do with The Crown season 6. That was disgusting. But anyway, I'm glad we have Spare to counter that and we can actually refer to the truth. And I'm glad that Prince Harry was very clear that he has never let go of the guilt of that. I hope he frees himself, but I do understand his stance on that and he has properly atoned. Good for him for being a man and standing in his shit. You get nowhere by lacking accountability. The rest of the royals could learn a thing or two. What did y'all think? Let me know in the live chat. Now, take from that what you will. I will never tell you have to agree with me or think exactly like me. And I welcome you to share your perspective. This is a safe space to do that. As long as we're respectful, we can talk all day long. But I was very annoyed by the way certain things were emphasized in Spare and then they were emphasized in The Crown. For The Crown to not have referenced Spare, y'all were real lucky. Y'all just managed to hit the bullseye 3 or 4 times, but you didn't reference Spare. And let me just say this, if you could reference Spare enough to actually rip off the dialogue, then why didn't you at least just tell the truth? The story is sensational enough as is. Harry told the story and he took all the blame. He was honest about the influences, but he took all the blame and he committed to the repentance and he atoned for it and he was very public about his apology and he has been ever since then. You could have easily just shared the story as is. If you're going to use, so here's the thing. Peter Morgan made it a point to say, this season didn't really feature Harry that much because of his age around the time period that we're covering. And so we're not really going to feature Harry that much. So there was no reason to read Spare. Okay, but you still used a storyline that was featuring Harry. It was about Harry. So I feel as a creator, it was your responsibility to focus on the first-hand account of the person that you're talking about. You can use interviews, you can use books, you can use documentaries to reference the rest of the royals, but why wouldn't you use the first-hand account when you're referencing Harry regarding something that he covered in his book? I think that's lazy writing. Also, it's clear that you did reference Harry. It is so clear. Now, I can't say that for sure, but I will say the dialogue is too spot on for what Harry said in Spare to what they said in The Crown, and they switched around who said what, which they did several times in part 1 as well as part 2. They gave a lot of Harry's dialogue to William in part 1 when they were speaking to Diana. And the goal was to make William look more compassionate. So they took a lot of Harry's words to his mother and put them in the mouth of his brother, while completely omitting him as a character. And then in part 2, they took somehow, they happened to be mentally traveling on the same wavelength of a book that they didn't read, that they didn't reference, according to them. They didn't reference Spare. But somehow, the things that were emphasized, and at times verbatim in Spare, were emphasized in The Crown, but switched around in a way to make Harry look solely responsible. Even so much so saying that Kate warned him about the armband, when that's not true. The lengths you people who claim to be royalists will go to involve yourselves in family drama that is not your business is beyond me. If you wanted to support the royals, fine, by all means. I support Harry and Meghan, fine. But do y'all see me calling the palace to cuss them out? Do y'all see me using my job that makes my money to actually impacting myself in my career and impacting myself in my job in order to stick it to the royals who probably don't care about me at all? So Peter Morgan, why would you undercut your own reputation to prove a point to someone who you share a platform with, one, and two, who has nothing to do with you? And you could have easily just used his account to tell the story, not told the story at all, or at least been honest about referencing the book. Or not referenced it. What you didn't have to do was lie. There was a lot of options and not one of them included lying. Yet you did. So, I mean, listen, again, The Crown is not 100% accurate. It's not a documentary. It's a show. It's fictional. And Harry himself has said that. My issue, so that, you guys understand where I'm coming from, my issue is the fact that he used someone, I don't know if it was Peter Morgan, somebody used Spare to tell Harry's account using things that have only been publicized through Spare. We didn't know about a lot of that stuff, a lot of the details that use Spare in order to give us those details, but also to be sympathetic toward Kate and William and further paint Harry as the bad guy. If you were going to use Spare, you should have just used it to tell the truth. That is my problem. And then to publicly go on record and say you didn't use Spare, but a lot of that dialogue was verbatim. I can't get past that. I cannot get past that. So somebody lying, and I know it's not Spare. So I feel yet again affirmed in my choice not to watch The Crown season 6 part 2. I'm not going to watch it. And they don't care. They will probably break records. They're on their way out. They don't care. They are not fighting for my view, and I'm fine with that too. But I just did not appreciate that. And so thank you to the people who sent that to me and was like, I know you're not watching part 2, but girl, they playing what you do. So I was like, no way. How can it get any worse than what they did with Diana? They used season 6 to stick it to Diana and stick it to her baby boy. They sure did. And before anybody comes at me again, I know that Charles calls Harry darling boy. When I say baby boy, I mean the youngest child, because I'm American and I'm not Charles. Every time I say her baby boy, it's because he's the youngest. And every single time I get like 15 comments, Sharion, it's darling boy, it's darling boy. And I'm like, child, are you Charles? Then why do you care? Why do you care? So anyway, that hopefully will be my last time having to read The Crown. We started off on such a high note, y'all. When they released the trailer, y'all know I was one of the most excited. I was the most excited. And as I saw more, I said, okay, you're playing in my face, but okay. But anyway, that's all I have for y'all today. I hope you enjoyed today's live stream. It was so nice to catch up with everybody and talk to everybody. We had so much to talk about, and this is our last live stream before Christmas. So, but not my last video. I will talk to y'all again all the way up until Saturday. So Thank y'all so much for watching. And I have a special Christmas video coming out. So thank y'all so much for watching. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like the video, share so more people can find it, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I do that all the time. I'll watch, and then I'll be like 4 videos in, and I'll be like, have I subscribed to her? And I'll go subscribe late. They'll probably be like, now girl, I got you subscribed like 10 videos in. But I know I do it, so I'm trying to remind people who are like me. But anyway, that's all I have for y'all. Thanks to everyone who supports the channel, who's watched, and most of all, thank you to everyone who has donated to Fisher House Foundation. I'm so excited to help military families, military veterans, service members, and families, especially around Christmas. Thank y'all so much. That's all I have. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.